Welcome to Discuss With Us podcast, where we are unpacking the world through a Christian lens. I am your host, Darcy Durkowski, along with my husband, Brian, and our intention is to pose topics, trending and otherwise, and unpack them with the help of some research, insights from our different backgrounds, and even some listener input in a way that is thought-provoking and entertaining. So get comfortable, grab your favorite beverage, and discuss with us.
Welcome back to another episode of Discuss With Us. Darce, how we doing?
Doing well. We had a good weekend at the
Yes.
lake. Yes.
Found a new treasure place to
Yeah.
spot, whatever.
Yeah. A good
Secluded.
We're like such creatures of habit. We go to the same one, but
Same park, same 2 or 3 spots every time, which is nice.
yeah, when it's good, it's
hey,
good, and the boys are like used to it and
yeah.
everything.
When you
but-
got a good thing, don't change.
Yeah.
But we can't help ourselves.
Well, we finally really took advantage of the walking trails last time that we were there,
Yes,
and
because
kind of
it wasn't like
Mhm.
100 degrees, and
Yes.
it was worth doing it.
yeah, and so we walked over to the other area of the campground, and it was very nice. So we decided to do Dylan's birthday there.
Yeah, and we'd always look at it like when you're driving into
Yeah.
the park 'cause it's the first spots off to your right.
And I feel like most people just write it off because it's like, oh, well, there's not as many trees over there
Well,
as
it
there are
also
in the other
says
area.
like emergency shelter area
Oh, yeah.
is what the sign says, and it's like, oh, are those. I used to wonder if they were even real spots.
Right. But they are, and they're
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's only like 6.
It was very private.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
We were able to, if you have young kids, because there's so much less traffic and everything, we were
Yeah.
almost able to just.
Let them go.
Yeah, it was the first time ever that I was like, they'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a loop of spots.
Yeah, one loop.
And so, and it's all nice asphalt too. So, June, really all the boys rode their bikes around. All their ride-along contraptions and tricycles and bikes and all the things, all weekend.
Yeah,
Wore
it was
themselves out.
not enough, but a little bit. They did sleep a little better this time, probably. 'Cause
No,
of
they
that.
did. Yeah. And, yeah, so much so Dylan was still sleeping it off today, I think.
Yeah, he fell asleep in the truck in the
Mhm.
morning.
Yeah,
Just
unusual.
rare. What are we doing today?
So
No,
today,
you got a new phone.
yes, I did. And I can't figure out how to put it on silent. So if it goes off, sorry. It's got some new little buttons and everything. There's a group of coworkers that give me a really, really hard time for having such a busted up
You
phone.
do have a pretty janky phone.
Yeah, so Brian got me a new phone today, and it's so not cracked.
Until the kids, or you already spilled a drink all over
Yeah,
it.
it wasn't my greatest moment as a mother, but Brian had literally just given me the phone, and I hadn't even like
maybe 10
explored it.
minutes ago.
And he left the room, and the boys were all sitting around me, and I wasn't even looking through the phone. I had it set next to me, but I was reading a book with the boys, but they just, they're so like, they're just very wiggle wormish, and they kept moving all over the place, and they ended up knocking over my full to the brim drink onto not only my brand new phone, but my work phone. And I did not curse,
It's okay.
but
We have insurance.
I yelled at everyone. It was not my greatest look. I apologized to them afterwards.
I could hear you from outside.
No, you couldn't.
I
You
know,
didn't
making
know.
that up.
Okay, so
What are we
today,
talking about?
yeah, today we are talking about. So this is one of our topics that was part of the listener's choice. If you were there, seems like a long time ago, but it really
Yeah.
wasn't. This was one of the finalist topics for the listener's choice episodes.
Got it.
And so
You held on to this one for a while.
I know. But it's relevant, especially now. So it's how to holiday with family.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And I have to disclaimer here because I feel like we're gonna dive off into this stuff and make it sound like we have some like serious family
Huge
and
dysfunctional
family
problems.
issues.
Maybe. You don't know.
But we don't. But we've been. Let's
We
see.
don't to the public.
Stop. We don't. But you're married for any amount of time, and there's going to be some kind of family clashing or some kind of shift or occurrence situation that I don't know. You got to like adjust and make decisions and
It's just funny.
prioritize, and
When
it's
you
complicated.
when you brought this up, I was thinking about it like when you're a kid, I don't maybe it was different for you. I just felt like it was set in stone
Yeah. Yeah.
and you just did cuz I guess the kinks were already worked out or maybe times were different. But
Hmm.
anyways, for the most part, we did the same thing every year for all
Yeah.
holidays. And so you end up with this idea in your head because of what you're used to. And then you marry somebody and you have to factor that in. And then if you have siblings and all the things that we'll talk about here in a minute, but it's almost like ever
Changing.
changing
Yeah.
to a little
You
bit.
can't ever think that you have it set, really. I mean, you can try.
I mean, I guess at some point, like, not all my siblings are married. Yours aren't, but not everyone has kids yet, and there's
Yeah.
different dynamics. Like at some point, I suppose, and ours are relatively set in stone, relatively. Um, but I would imagine at some point, probably by the time our kids will really be able to remember, like when I
Yeah.
remember holidays and
I don't
stuff,
know.
it'll
I
probably be good.
remember things varying a little bit year to year growing up and I think that's because um, I've got family here, local in Brenham, and then family in Louisiana. So there's a little more distance in between.
Yeah,
So
changes things a little bit.
yeah, it does. Um,
So
but
you
yeah,
broke this down. Start us
yeah.
off here.
So like I
I'll just
said, I
ramble.
just want to disclaimer that we're not going through something terrible with our families. We're just gonna talk
Well,
from the
don't
perspective
jinx it
of
before we haven't even gotten to a.
complications.
This is the first holiday of the season.
I know. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that make this so complicated. And you've touched on some, like you introduce a spouse and now
Yeah.
you have all their family. And then if you introduce kids, slash grandkids, that takes it to a whole new level. Because it's one thing if you miss a holiday and it's just you and your spouse. It's a whole nother thing if you miss a holiday, like a family get together and the grandkids don't, the grandparents don't get to see the grandkids.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Whole nother level there.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. And then like even patriarchal, matriarchal transition. Um, and what I mean by that is it could be as simple as like your grandparents get older and don't want to host anymore
Yeah.
or want to do it differently or obviously, the one that you don't want to say is like, grandparents pass on or a set of grandparents, great
Yes.
grandparents. Um,
There's usually a linchpin.
yes, and that can change things up. Um, and then obviously distance plays a huge factor, I would say.
Yeah.
And then frankly, like priorities, like there are some holidays that are more or less important to different family members. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
even how they grew up. Maybe they didn't make a big deal out of, Thanksgiving really, or whatever it may be. Um, so it just very quickly gets complicated. Anything I'm missing there?
No, I think you got it all.
Yeah, and there's like we said, there's like situations year to year that might change things. So it's just complicated. So how do we begin to
It's like your
sort?
Facebook status. It's complicated.
How do we begin to sort through the decisions?
So the first thing you do is if you have any siblings, you iron this out early and
Yeah.
just make it what it is. You all come to an agreement and just decide this is what we do.
and that works out 100% of the time.
Works out some of the time.
Yeah, no, you're right. I do think communication up front is key for sure. And let me back up too. One of the reasons that I'm taking this approach of like of going down this, I guess, angle is when I did a poll on Instagram about like what makes holidays with family stressful. Um, everybody, it was pretty resounding that it's like scheduling and pleasing everyone was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And then there was mixed in like some in-law judgment and some, I forget what my other options even were. Those were the two most voted on, but hands down it was scheduling and pleasing everyone is what makes it so stressful. um so how do we begin to sort through all the complications and try to figure out how you're going to holiday? um So you said sort it out with your siblings
Yeah,
as
that
soon
was
as
kind of a
possible.
joke because that's what we did. But
I do remember.
which
I do
meant my
remember
little
you
sister
having.
just got the short end of the stick because me and my older sister were just like, "This is what we do. This is how we do it, and we're never revisiting it again." So that doesn't always work,
No.
FYI. But the one thing that kind of goes in with that, we're younger people. A lot of people listening are probably
Are
younger
we?
people, younger in this of what I'm about
I'm
to
kidding.
say. Um, I do think it's important to, the reason why it gets so hard and stressful is because everyone wants to see you. And
Yes.
especially if you have kids, then everyone wants to see your kids. They could care a little less about you.
Yeah.
Because kids make these things fun, frankly.
Mhm.
Um, with that said, I think it's important, and this is easy for us because we live in the same town as both sets of our
Yes.
families.
Distance is not a complication of ours.
Yeah, which, shout out to us for just making our life easier. Um, but I do think it's important to remember everyone just wants to see you. So
Yes, that's true.
try to look at it through the lens of not like you're being forced to do something, because this is something that, in the grand scheme of things, it's just like when we're talking about different stages of having kids and stuff. Like, you're in that season for a moment and then you're out.
Mhm.
And if you do have older family members, it is, you know, it's a blip and
Yeah.
then that won't be there. And if you've gone through um, growing up and having family members and then them not being there, that's just something to remember. It's like,
Yes.
even though it's hard, it's almost like, in a lot of ways, it's not even about you as much as it is about some of those other people. And
Yes.
frankly, you will have those memories too. So, like, that's the first thing I think to do, is to
Mhm.
just try to remove,
Look at
because
it through that perspective.
I'm very good at like getting stuck on like myself getting aggravated about getting put upon or put out or anything.
Mhm.
But when it comes to these, I do think step one is just remember nobody's trying to be rude. It's merely out of them just having a desire for everyone to be there.
Yes.
Um, I think my mom used to always, it's not like this is her thing. I think a lot of people say this, but you're only as you're only as happy as your least
That's what
happy
my mom says.
child. Yeah, must have been on like a box of macaroni and cheese or something. But um, anyways, when you think about it in this context, like, if not everyone's there, then, and I can feel it now, and our
Mhm.
kids are so small, but like, if if we have three, if two were there but one wasn't, you'd be
You
great with the
enjoy.
two, but you'd also have a desire of like, wish the third
Yes.
one was here, whichever
Yeah.
one it was. So not that it's, you know,
The end of the world.
yeah, and especially like how you grew up, you got two different states to deal with. Like, you
Yes.
can't make it all happen. But
Mhm.
depending on your situation, as much as possible, I think that's something to at least keep in your thoughts as you're game planning.
Yeah. And I do think that not just rolling with it year to year is probably better for a couple of reasons. One, you get a little stability. And what I mean by this is like trying to figure out how you're going to do it for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
Um, and a couple reasons you would do that. One, to be able to plan for that, especially if you're having to travel any sort of distance. But um, two, if you do have kids, the sporadic things, not that they won't remember those things, but if you have some consistency to like we always did, you always hear people refer to like, oh well, we always did Thanksgiving in Chapel Hill,
Yeah.
or we always did Easter here, and I remember this, that, and whatever. And I feel that way. Like I remember we always did Easter in Louisiana for the longest time until my grandparents passed, and I remember those Easter egg hunts there at their Cherry Ridge Baptist Church.
Yeah.
And so I think there is something to be said about at least trying to have some consistency there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as far as like thinking about it ahead of time too, the only other thing I would say is, and you and I are extremists here, like we plan or at least give thought way out in front of where we're at.
Yeah. We're extreme
um,
planners.
but that's just our personality. But um, if you are young married, go ahead and consider what, like when you have kids, at least just start to consider what that is going to look like, because you have time right now to kind of
Yeah.
sort it out.
And think about siblings if you have them too, and
Yes,
stuff like that,
yes,
and how
exactly.
it can work for all of them. And that, you know, if you if not everyone's settled yet and stuff, that's always hard. But there is I started out with the joke, but when my sister got married, it was just kind of they did me and my little sister, we were always there.
Hmm.
Um, but then when I did get married, you and I, um, then we kind of like brainstormed like, okay, this would work for you, this would work for you, um, and tried to make that work. And then now my little sister's married, and so we're still trying to
Still
figure that
sorting it
out.
all out. Yeah.
Which same thing happens with you. So it's always
Hmm.
that's what I mean. Like it's ever changing, but you do kind of. I think it makes it easier if everyone gets on the same page a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and then the only other thing, like you were talking about Louisiana, so you had to pick and choose. But um, to your point, like I remember, and I was fortunate, I had family in Burton and Chapel Hill. Now, at the time when I was young, we lived in Houston, but we would, for as far as I can remember, we made it to both. And we
Hmm.
would, um, and so I don't remember the hecticness that my parents probably had of driving to
Yeah.
both, and making it just I remember it was always a super long day,
Hmm.
because we would leave early and we would usually go to Burton first, and then we would always stop off in the afternoon, into the night in Chapel Hill on our way back. But my point is for the parents out there, as a kid, I don't know, that may have been a really hectic day, but for me, it was fun. It was like
Hmm.
we would hang out with one set of cousins at one house and then the other set at the other.
Yeah.
And I just remember eating two desserts,
Yes.
dessert and throwing up sometimes in the car because I can't handle that much sugar. But the
Sounds
point is, I remember that stuff of it. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it's
If it's doable,
yeah, no, I'm just saying if it's do like
yeah,
my thing is just with like the hecticness of it, like those are the things like I
you
personally
remember and
remember. So,
appreciate it.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Living in one county helps. So
Yes, for
it
sure.
was tip to tip of the county, but
Yeah. Yeah, if you can do it and go to both and make it work, cuz you staggered basically your meals there. Then I think that's nice to be able to see both, especially when you do still have grandparents involved, great grandparents, whoever it may be.
yeah,
Everybody wants to holidays, they don't have to be celebrated on the day of, but if they can be, it's nice. I feel like it's a set day for everyone to be able to see family.
yeah,
Now, if you and your the rest of your extended family agree that like, okay, well, we'll wait a day so that we can all be together, I think that's fine too.
yeah.
So, lots to sort through for sure. Um
Thanksgiving's really the only hard one to me for that. Like what you're saying with like it being the day, because
yeah.
Christmas is 2 days, Easter is really like 3 days. Um,
Just because you have like Good Friday and the weekend
Hmm.
and yeah,
Like if
Sunday,
you have to
obviously.
pick and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes,
But
yes. There's other
Thanksgiving
options.
is the one day where it's like, I mean, you can do Black Friday, and a lot of people probably do that. Because you can also like tie in, even though it's less popular now, but like shopping and stuff with it
Yeah.
and things. But Thanksgiving, I feel like is always the hard one because it's like
Yes.
that's just one day.
Yeah. And I think that if you're maybe you're the matriarch, patriarch, or whatever that is hosting, or just the host that year, um, if you have to adjust and I don't know, not do your ideal situation, um, adapt and make it super fun. Like if you're in that position where the only day you can get your whole family together is the Friday after Thanksgiving, then maybe make it like a tradition that you do leftover sandwiches or something that
Oh
day.
yeah, make it quirky or something.
Yeah, make it quirky. I mean, we do a spin of that, doing both Thanksgivings. So we do a themed Thanksgiving with your parents, which I find really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so kind of on that end, this is a decent transition here
All right.
on because we're kind of like spitting some advice, maybe stumbling through it. But, the build up to me is part of the whole experience. My mom was always big on that, like with Christmas. She
Okay.
was like, enjoy the whole build up of Christmas, like the whole month of December. There's all the Christmas movies out, there's Christmas lights to go see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't put all your eggs in the basket of Christmas Day because there's so much leading up to it that you enjoy. And once it's over, it's gone till the
They
next
do go
year.
fast.
Yeah. So, even with just Thanksgiving, like if you're wondering what I'm talking about here, what I was thinking about is like the build up, the whole meal planning, who's bringing what. Like I just said, with your parents' Thanksgiving, and we do a theme, and so
Yeah,
it's
we
like,
draw a food type out of a hat like
yeah,
a month before,
so we can
and
start planning for what
who's gonna
theme.
make what, and we try to
Yeah.
do it authentic. So it's like this year we're doing like Tex-Mex, so everyone has to make
Hmm.
like we're not like buying. Well, as far as I know, we're making ours.
Doesn't have to be that. I don't think that's a big prong of that.
It is for me.
Okay,
You
well,
gotta
for you.
go all in. But anyways, to
But
your point, like we
the
have like
buildup
a
is part of
group
it.
text talking
Yeah.
about it and stuff like that. Yeah.
Enjoy that and participate in that. I would say go all in with that. And then my very next one, which is a rather large piece of my advice here, is lower expectations.
Yeah. No, it's
And
probably a big one.
that's not even saying like, family fails me every time. That's not really what I mean. It's more so that when we build something up in our head, we are just setting ourselves up to be disappointed at some point along the way.
Yes.
Like, even if it's like, oh, I packed all these games for us to be able to play and I'm so excited about it. And then we
Yeah.
get there and you don't have
You
time
don't
for
play any
games.
of them.
Yeah. So just lower expectations. And I'm not saying you don't bring the games and not saying you don't think through all that stuff, but just when it comes to the actual day of with family, lower
Well,
expectations.
especially like if someone can't make it or something
Yes.
happens and comes up, like those things, roll with the punches.
Yeah. And so I think lower your expectations for everybody around you. Set your own bar for yourself and don't worry about like how everybody else measures up. Like just try to focus on your attitude during the day and what you're contributing and stuff.
Give me an example of when you felt this.
When I felt that, I told you, it's not like I'm saying family has failed me. It's more so that I've just seen like you get this build up in your head of like
You've
this
just
is what
watched a
we're
lot
gonna
of the
do.
Hallmark Channel.
No, I don't. That's a complete lie.
Sounds good.
Um so anyway, set your own bar for yourself. And to that point, be flexible and realize relationships take work and inconvenience. And
This is where I struggle.
yeah, it's yeah, no, it is. We've had this discussion before about like, even just like friendships. Sometimes you do have to be inconvenienced to service in service of a friendship. Same thing with holidays. Try to be flexible where you can. And, if it's inconvenient for you, but it works for everybody else, then just roll with it. It's not all about me.
Yeah,
Try to accommodate where you can.
I know.
Um, and okay, so this is going to lead me down a little trail because I was thinking about this, about how, um, just, I don't know, you could probably say it about literally each generation, but, um, we just live in a world where this is just the world. It's like the description of the world. It's all about us. The
Hmm.
world revolves around us and not, around Jesus or anything. Um, but so I'm going to go down this trail of like some buzzwords, okay? Are
Ooh,
you ready?
yes. Probably not, because this isn't on the script. You're off.
Yeah, it
You're
is.
off sheet.
Yeah, it is. I wrote this out in my outline anyway. Um, Again, not all about us. So the buzzwords that I was thinking of are toxicity and boundaries.
Oh, you've read too many Facebook statuses.
It's just because I feel like, and this isn't just a thing that's associated with the holidays, but you'll see people post about like, if these people are toxic in my life, I'm cutting them out, and nope, I'm putting up this boundary for my family and for the health of my family and all this stuff. And here's my disclaimer: there are people out there where there are toxic relationships that they really do need to cut off.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And there are boundaries that do need to be set 100%. However, these are also buzzwords. And in the same way,
Yeah, people like using them
yes,
sometimes.
loosely. And I don't
Yeah.
like that. Um, I feel like it's excuses for us to make our world revolve around us a little more sometimes. Not all the time. It's the same way I feel about the buzzword of like mental illness. 1,000% mental illness is a huge problem, but
Yeah.
the way we loosely throw it around, we almost do like a disservice to people who struggle with
Yeah.
mental illness.
No, that's true.
And that's how I feel here. There are people who deal with toxic relationships. And a lot of times, we're talking close relationships. So that's typically talking about some kind of family, because otherwise you do just cut it off, right? But
Right.
family's a little more complicated
Mm-hmm.
typically. And then there are people, like I said, that deal with needing to put up boundaries because it's just not healthy for, I don't know, something to cross that. However, I just don't think that our loosely throwing these words around, and putting walls up is especially healthy.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I agree.
Really? That's all you're going to give me? I just went on like a rant somewhat, and that's all you got?
N- no, but I'm trying to stay with you here.
Okay.
Um.
Here's an interesting question for you.
Okay.
Um, do you think, and this is a for real question,
Okay.
do you think that Jesus set boundaries?
Uh. Yes, I do. I would think so.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I'm just trying to.
Things are worded weird in the Bible sometimes, like how he. Um.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the yes, I think he set boundaries, but in the Bible when we read him, he always like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
It's almost how it comes off sometimes. Like,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. We don't know. We weren't there, right? But I was thinking of like trying to think of different scenarios where he may have set boundaries, and one that came to mind was like when Mary and Martha called him about Lazarus.
the disciples definitely tried to set boundaries
Yeah,
and
that's
keep
true.
people from him.
No, that's 100% true.
That I know.
And I think he basically kind of probably instructed them to do that in some
Exactly. It's not.
cases,
It's not said, but it would have had to have been. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise he would
But
have
like
just
he
been
set the
mobbed
boundary
immediately.
when Mary and Martha, I guess my point is Jesus didn't do everybody's beck and call.
Yeah.
He was definitely a there to serve.
Mm-hmm.
not be served. So I think that's a good perspective to have,
Yeah.
helpful in this discussion. But he also did not do everybody's beck and call. Like when Mary and Martha called him and Lazarus was sick, he did not drop everything necessarily and rush off.
Yes.
Now, granted, he is Jesus and knew what the outcome of that whole situation was going to be. But I guess the point that I'm getting at is, um, Jesus had perspective, and yet he was here to serve and be served. And there were, points where like the disciples were trying to, keep people out, and he did let them in. So I don't know. I just think it's worth pondering.
The thing that keeps coming almost to mind with me, and this is gonna be terrible, but like when you talk about like the toxicity stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm going off of your example of it being like overused.
Okay.
So again, not to make light of if there is
If
a
there's a real
situation,
situation,
yeah.
yes.
But like my mind keeps going to very specifically, and it's because it's getting to that time of year, like vacation, um, and Home Alone,
Oh, yeah.
just like those holiday dinners and stuff. And what I mean by that is like um, just almost like your lower expectations point. Like if you have like a crazy uncle who just says crazy things,
Yeah.
and or you know, a crazy aunt who loads your kid up with sugar even though you don't like him eating sugar and
Yes.
stuff like that. Like all the things that sometimes annoy us and can
Yes.
tick us off. Like I'm thinking about these movies and what you see
Yes.
and stuff. It's like those are also things where it's like you just have good car ride conversation for
Yes. Yes.
afterwards and stuff.
No, and that's
Like
kind of what I'm getting at. And not that, look,
like just lean into it and
if your
accept it.
kid goes absolutely nuts after, ingesting, what is it? What were the was the one you used yesterday? Yellow 7
Yellow 7
or something.
and red 5. Yeah, you
And you
can't
want
have
to,
that.
set those boundaries and say, no, we're not having that or whatever. I think that is totally fine and warranted, but I also think you don't have to impose that on everybody else. Bring your own dish for them or something. Like if
Yeah,
that's a I guess, what I'm saying is don't throw it around loosely, and don't, dramatic. Is it, how do I say this? Dramatize?
dramatize.
Dramatize. There we go. I could not get there. I'm hoping that this is part of the charm of this, right?
Yeah.
Um, don't dramatize it. And I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say about that. And I just think it is,
That's all I have to say about it.
yeah, maybe you do just go through the thought process of like, would Jesus set this boundary, or would he say, let the children come to me,
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. Okay. Um, Lastly, this is my biggest thought here.
Ooh, the biggest one. Here we go.
Um, because not all, schedules and, pleasing everyone, that's a huge deal. But then there's also just when you get a lot of people in the room, and like you said, like people from different age groups and backgrounds and all these things, and there's going to be a crazy uncle or something,
Yeah.
there's going to be, you're going to deal with all this
Sometimes
stuff.
you are the crazy uncle.
And sometimes, like, um, for example, I love my mother in law, but she is the one that I want the house cleanest for. Like there's just there's those dynamics to every.
Good, because she does look.
I know, right? No. You're going to be dealing with some kind of dynamic with family,
Mm-hmm.
just inevitably. So if you're having a hard time with that, or maybe something has like happened in the recent past that you can't picture sitting at the table with these folks coming up, like,
Right.
I mean, this stuff happens, right? If you're having a really hard time about that, um, if you're Catholic, go to confession.
Oh, yeah.
I think
That's
that can be
good.
very helpful. And if you're not, still ask God to remove that bitterness or hurt or like anxiety that you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
whatever emotion it may be that is making you really dread the dinner table at Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Ask God to remove it. Um, because it's hard not to feel some relief after
Yeah.
that. Um, and then the next part of that for me is, again, if you're Catholic, go to adoration.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
That's a good one too.
or a place where God feels close.
Hmm.
And that can be in your house, maybe sitting in your chair with a candle lit and the Bible sitting in your lap. I mean, whatever it's
Yeah.
got to be, or out on a walk around your property or something. Go somewhere where God feels close to you, um, and work through those thoughts, because I feel like when you feel and focus on, not just feel, but like focus on the presence of God near, you can root out some of those like emotions, negative thoughts that you're dealing with.
Yeah. Help you get that perspective you need.
Yes, exactly. Um, I don't know. Any other final thoughts?
What's your favorite holiday? Because I mean, Thanksgiving and Christmas are obviously on the brain, but
Yeah, I really like Easter.
yeah, that's mine too.
I really like Easter
Christmas is
because
obviously coming in real strong
yeah,
right
oh
now,
yeah,
though,
for sure. Especially with our
with the
boys, the
age of the
age
kids.
they
Yeah,
are, like it's so fun. And the thing that I do appreciate about Easter is that it's a it's the longest season.
yeah.
Like my mom said, it's not just the day of, it's everything leading up to it. So it's like a whole season that is fun.
When you got all there's obviously a lot more movies that go along with it
Yeah.
and stuff for like movie nights and stuff like that,
Yes.
and
There's
you
just
got
a lot of
setting up
low
the
hanging
Christmas
fruit.
lights,
Yeah.
doing the Christmas tree,
Yeah.
um,
Easy memories.
doing the calendar, all those things.
Yes, but beyond Christmas, I would say Easter,
Hmm.
because again, 3 day. It's not just a 1 day celebration.
Yeah,
You've got Good Friday. It's a good time of year, and then of course, most of all, the cross changed everything. So
yeah.
as far as like spiritually, it's a very, again, the season leading up to Easter, Lent,
Hmm.
um, very powerful. And all of the Easter gatherings and everything are very centered on what happened on the cross. So I really like Easter.
Me too. Then I guess just for those, so we go to typically, and it's been like this, I think this one's been pretty much the same our whole marriage. We do like late morning lunch, Thanksgiving, going through the holidays
Okay.
with your parents, just
Mhm.
in case people need ideas. And
Mhm.
then we do like afternoon, late. Most of the time, it's ironic. Most of the time, my parents haven't even eaten by the time we get there,
Yeah.
because we do like mid afternoon
Mhm.
and kind of do late lunch, and then it also kind of works out. We all like sports, so it's like
Yes.
you kind of center it around the football
The
games and
games.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and Christmas Eve, we usually do with my family because we go
Mhm.
to mass. And then Christmas Day, one thing that, again, this is if family lives close, that we've started doing that we like. Um, Obviously, the kids open presents early, and then we kind of do like a big breakfast
Yeah.
and let the grandparents come over if they want, because again, they don't live super far away, so then they can kind of get. We'll make breakfast and have coffee and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
I do think, I hope our kids will do that.
Oh
Frankly,
my
that's a
gosh. Yeah.
selfish thing. Like,
Yeah.
I like doing that because I hope they include us when they're
Yes.
grown because I like it. But we'll do breakfast and have both sets of grandparents come over. And then we usually do Christmas Day with your family.
Yes.
Um,
White
and
elephant and
yeah.
a meal, and
Hmm.
but that one's not traditional either. We do like barbecue and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. We're kind of, Thanksgiving's the only one we're really traditional on,
yeah.
at your parents.
Yes.
And then Easter, we haven't done this consistently every time, but we think we found something that we kind of like, but always subject to change. We like going to the lake and camping
Yes.
on Easter. Um, and that's another fortunate thing.
Unconventional, but like it's
It's
been a
honestly
hit.
been, it's part of why it's one of my favorites. And we've
Yes.
done different things, but you and I typically, we don't host Thanksgiving, and usually don't do Christmas. But Easter's usually the one that we were hosting,
Yeah.
when we first got married, and because neither, I guess, you had the Louisiana history, and we
Mhm.
didn't really do. I mean, we did all the church stuff, but as
Right.
far as like outside of it, we didn't have anything set in stone. No one did, but I like that because we'll go and do Good Friday out there.
Hmm.
Um,
Easter egg hunt.
yeah, Easter egg hunt out there. Yeah, it's
Well, and
super
at the
fun.
lake, and this has just been
It makes
there's
it easier to combine too. We're able to kind of get mixtures
yes,
of both families with
yes.
that one.
And at the lake, the park that we've gone to, there's other sets of families that are doing the very same thing, and a
Yeah,
couple of them go all out too.
yeah.
And like,
There was a
there's an
giant
Easter
Easter egg
bunny.
hunt. Yeah,
Well, remember that guy got dressed up as the Easter bunny,
yeah.
like a legit costume,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was really cool. So, if you have to do something unconventional, or don't be afraid to do something
Yeah.
unconventional, I think it's fun.
And
Um,
above all, just like I said in the beginning, just remember everyone wants to see you. That's where
yeah,
it all
it's where it
comes
all
from.
comes from. That's true. Yeah, and also like to your point, because when you just described like our Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, it just it's a lot. But those and it
But it's
is it's a
fun.
long day,
I'm
but it
usually
is fun and just
just
I
take
think.
vacation from work. No big deal.
But I think something that I have learned in my several short years of parenting is those like hard days where you're like, ugh, do I really want to do all of this? Those are where all the memories are made. And
Yeah.
like, you don't look back and go, like, that was terrible. That was so much work.
Well,
You
even if
really
you do,
don't.
you're like, that was terrible, and you laugh
It's
about it.
funny. Yeah. So those long, exhausting days make memories too. So, in summary, I would say prepare your own heart for whatever you're about to face, holiday wise, with
Hmm.
family, and lower your expectations.
There you go.
I feel like that's pretty solid
Nice.
advice.
So, for our last main episode before we take a little bit of holiday break, we may be here and there as we
I
get
think we're
into
gonna do,
Advent.
yeah, I think we're gonna do some Advent episodes, but they'll be more like reflection type, not
Yeah.
topic based.
But we'll close out with a pretty fun one leading
Yes.
into Thanksgiving. We're going to do favorite foods and different. We'll go more in depth on this
Yeah.
Durkowski. Uh,
Family traditions.
yeah. And kind of get into the foods of mainly Thanksgiving. We might touch on a couple of other holidays. But so we'll do that.
Yeah. Food recipes.
Yeah.
See if I come
So
across any hacks.
hopefully now everyone is just listening to this and they're like, I got it
I
all
got this
figured
in the
out now.
bag. Yep.
And if you need if someone you know needs to listen to this so that they're in the right frame of mind, just direct them our
I
way.
know. I was thinking it's been a while since I've done a really hard plug on sharing our podcast, but this is maybe a good one if you have somebody struggling or somebody that's that always kind of has a crazy family or crazy experience, crazy holiday stuff.
Yeah,
Send them this episode.
yeah, and give us feedback so we can tell
Yeah.
your crazy story. Um,
Yeah.
as we have unpacked not Thanksgiving,
How to
holidays and
holiday with family.
yeah, you go discuss.